living without hope,
when I'm living without hope,
when my heart is hurt and my mind confused, calling me, I hear you calling me. When I'm living on the ropes,
when I'm living on the ropes,
going down for the third time,
I hear you calling me,
I hear you calling me. You say, why be afraid of fall, surge and wait? They're just impermanent states of mind. And at once I'm free of false identity, because the master calls from afar. I hear you calling me, calling me. I hear you calling me, calling me.
There is a true unbinding, the joy to be received.
When stainless vision rises and we stand undeceived,
embracing circumstances, our hearts will be relieved.
This is the end of suffering.
Feel like my eyes haven't seen much. Feel like my words don't mean much. From the dirt on the ground that my knees touch, to the sky up above when I reach up, I hear a voice from the distance, and it's calling me to witness. If it's a part of you, it's a part of me. I hear you calling me.
Calling me, calling me, calling me, calling me. If you wanna be saved,
if you wanna be saved
from your self-destructive ways, listen to the master.
Calling,
open to the master.
Calling,
calling, calling,
open to the master.
Calling, calling,
calling to the
calling,
master.
Calling, calling.
We went to see Buddha Master, and we asked him, could we sing a song we had written for him? That was a song, you know. And I mean, when we go into the Dharma assembly, it's so formal. They have a wand. You can't have anything in your pockets. Can't have your shoes. You can't have, And so they confiscated everything. Our soundtrack. They confiscated everything, and so we said, Buddha Master, we wrote a song for you, and we want to sing it to you. And they were like, sing? They're gonna sing in the Dharma hall? So he said, okay. And so I don't know what they think of rap, because they were horrified about the thought of just singing a song, but he loved it. And that was all that mattered. Actually, as we were rehearsing for it, some of the Chinese nuns heard us, and so they wanted to sing it too. They would like it, they didn't have any rhythm, but they liked it, and they wanted, they caught the joy of it, and the honor and the adoration that we had for our teacher. And so they learned it the best they could. And so they came, a few of them joined and sang with us. He said, y'all, he said, that's for Westerners. But y'all Chinese, y'all just keep chanting. So because we come from, partly, we come from many different lineages, but primarily part of continuing a Chinese lineage, it's a whole lot of chanting, and we do it with them partly to show our solidarity with them. Sometimes you might like a certain kind of movie, and your partner likes a different kind of movie, but you will watch the kind that they like, just to show, not just to show, but to show forth your concern, your care, your just wanting to do what they want to do, want to be where they want to be. And you find enjoyment, maybe not in the thing, but you find enjoyment in their enjoyment in it, And so it's in this way that as we're moving forward on the Bodhisattva path, that the truism about saving others is our practice. It is our cultivation. Because in the beginning, we're concerned about myself, like you got needs, I got needs. I got to take care of my needs first. And when I've got my needs taken care, then I might have some resources by which I can help you with yours. And so this is how we think. Of course, there are others who think like they just like go too far on the other spectrum. And so they have nothing left for themselves, and the good that they would do they can't do because they have not kept enough for themselves to be able to do the best that they would do. So there can be an extreme to that, but most of us are not caught in that extreme of over do gooding. We're not in that extreme. We're mostly in the other extreme, which is around survival and maybe liking somebody or thinking that we like somebody, but what we really love is their love for us. That's it's really kind of like that. We think, oh, I love you, but it can really be I love your love for me. I love the way you love me. And that shows itself when we come up to difficult circumstances where we have to make a decision of what we're going to do that brings our own happiness or brings the happiness of those around us, brings the happiness of others. Sometimes it can be letting a contrary view stand established without having to make clear your side. Is it that important? Sometimes when I'm counseling people and they come in and they start talking about how they love everything, and I just had one. Okay, I'll say I had two, so nobody thinks it was them. I had two, and first I wanted to lay the foundation. I want you to know everything is good, everything is wonderful. I love, my life. And then they spent the next hour and a half on a diatribe about everything that was wrong with their life, and really talking themselves into a frenzy about it, because their mind was totally disturbed. And so when I brought up, like, you think your mind could be a little bit disturbed right there, they said, no, I don't want you to get the wrong idea, because I love this, and went back to reiterate what they love. And the very things that they were talking about putting into place in the future were the very things that they have in place right now that's not working for them, and talking about doing more of it in the future. I said that, well, it's sort of like contradictory what you're saying, like right now. And I want to go back and review with you what you said to me. And as I went back and I started reviewing it, it's like, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I'm like, I won't get the wrong idea. I said, because when you walk out of this room, I will not think about this anymore. I mean, it's your situation, one that you love, and yet it's, it has you in such a state. Why would I want to pick it up and think about it too? So once you walk out this door, I want you to know that just drops into the abyss of forgottenness, because we have to learn how to solve our own problems. Nobody can solve somebody else's problem. And that can sound hard and that can sound harsh, but it's really the truth. And if we don't allow, not help, but allow people to face their own circumstance truthfully, then we're not loving them. And when we give them the space to really decide what they want in life, we say of the four measurables, the first one is, what is the first one? No, yeah, but what? That's for I. What's the next one? You. So may you always be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So I can't free you from suffering or the causes of suffering. One has to free oneself, and that depends upon how the decisions that we make concerning ourselves. So when we find ourselves in uncomfortable situations, many times we start looking for the good things in the relationship, and we sort of like overlook what is not good, the things that cause us our suffering. And we say, well, we should always look on the bright side. No, you should look on both sides. And when we look on the side that's not bright, and we don't resolve that, then we find ourselves like just a dovetailing. Like I have a new kitty, and that kitty doesn't realize yet that his tail is not something belongs to somebody else. And so he runs and he'll see it, and he has an extra long tail. He's some kind of Egyptian cat. He's a strange looking cat, but he has this extra long tail, and he can turn his body like a snake. He's like a snake too. And he straightens out his back legs. So when he straightens out his back legs and his tail, looks like he has 3 legs. And so he'll look back there and he counts 1, 2, and then he has a third one. So he pounces on that one, thinking that it's something else. And this is how we can get mixed up around when we're looking and evaluating what's going on in our life. And if we don't take the time to recognize that third tail that's there by your willfully holding to it and your unwillingness to deal with it. And so you do the second best thing. You just keep lamenting to others about it, but nothing ever gets done with it. So this practice is, yes, it is about taking up the life and the wisdom of a Buddha, but in order to do that, you have to really deal with the vicissitudes of life. You have to deal with the worldly winds that are in your life, where you find praise and adoration and admiration, praise or blame, or pleasure or pain, fame or shame. What's the other two? Loss, loss or gain. And the object, or how you know you're making progress, is how well you can hold either one equally. Because when the mind is not in a neutral space, then the mind is agitated. It's like driving a car. If you have it in neutral, it's not going in any direction. If you were thinking in a positive way, you might say you put it in the drive and you go forward. In a reverse, you put it in reverse and you go backwards. So anything other than neutral, not moving, steady, we find that the mind is agitated. So if I'm, see something I want, the mind becomes agitated, and it can produce craving or grasping. If it's something I don't like, the mind is agitated, and it produces aversion, or just wanting something to go away, or sorrow or depression. And so the internal base or bases are, our eyes, our nose, the body, how we connect with the outer world, gives us information. And this information is partial. It's partial to its faculty. So it means that the eyes see things and the ears hear things. I mean, in general, some of us have some other kinds of quirky things, and we might hear sounds in color and stuff like that. But I'm just talking about general pop now. In the general pop, eyes see, ears hear, body feels, mind thinks, so these are internal bases. And they meet the external basis. That would mean that eyes see something, so it's what we see, ears hear something, it's what we hear. The body feels something, what we feel, the mind thinks something, what it thinks. Oh, so now we're getting to what it thinks. So we can see that the thinking mind is not us, because it's a faculty that us uses to determine something. So the thinking mind that you say, that is me, It couldn't possibly be you. Can't be you because it is informing you. So the Dharma encourages us to go a little bit deeper than the surface of the internal base and an external base. But the internal base meets the external base, there's a consciousness that arises. And when the consciousness arises, so if it's arising, then that tells you that the consciousness what? Is also not you. Right? Okay. So now you have an internal base, external base, consciousness, and arise, and these three make contact. And when they make contact, feeling comes into being. So I see something, I like it. I hear something, I don't like it. I think something, I like it. I think something, I don't like it. There's still now we're talking about an I that's making contact, internal base with the external base, consciousness arises, and three of those make contact. We have not gotten to the I yet. Okay, and with this feeling, then comes what we call, in the dependent origination scheme of things, birth. There's the birth of an I, and that birth did not occur until there was an internal base that met an external base, and a consciousness arose, and those three combined. And so this I we call the false I. It's not the true I, but it's the I that everybody thinks of as I. And the reason we cannot come out of our suffering is because we take that I to be real. So what the Dharma teaches us is that there is, in fact, an I, but you're not in it. The I that you think of, or the you that you think of, you're not in it. That your whole view is based on a wrong association or a misassociation. If you don't like the word wrong, we could just say a misassociation. That internal base met an external base, consciousness arose, the three of those made contact. With contact came a feeling, and with feeling came, a grasping, a clinging to it. If I like it, this I that has now arisen, because that I didn't arise until those three conditions came into place. So then this sense contact, right? Where there's nothing but a feeling that produces the sense of an I, is where the Buddha teaches us to work at cutting and to end our suffering. So that doesn't mean that you're like a bump on a log, something happened, I know nothing, I see nothing, I hear nothing. It's not like that, but it's bringing to a halt the proliferation of thoughts based on this internal base meeting external consciousness arising, three of them making contact. And with contact comes feeling. And with the feeling comes the grasping and the clinging or the aversion. So that is what birth is in Buddhism. That's what birth is in Dharma. Birth is not when you have a baby. Birth is when this false I arises in this particular situation based on what you have seen, heard, tasted, touched, smelled, or thought. That's what birth is. So when we're talking about birth and death, then we're not talking about this physical body that's made of earth, air, fire, and water in space. We're not talking about that dying. We're talking about the birth or the death of this false I that governs the choices that you made based on whether there's grasping or there's aversion. And so you can look at everything in your life, or just take one day in your life, and you see that you're constantly being born and you're constantly dying. So we could say that our religion is reality. Looking deeper to see what is there. But by the same token, the deeper you go with that, the more things you are able to see. It's like going to the optometrist, and I have reading glasses. I've had them for, I don't know, maybe 30 years or so. So finally, I decided maybe I'll get some real glasses, and I go to the optometrist, and he puts me in front of this thing, and it like does glasses, with different kinds of strength in them, different medicine in the lens, and he just says, "I like, tell me what you see," and it's fuzzy. I don't know. I can't make that out. I see this, but it's sideways, and he keeps going until he gets to a place where I'm seeing something really good. I'm like, this is excellent. This is perfect. He clicks one more time, says, "How about now?" And so the Dharma takes you through a series of clear seeing in that kind of way. But as one begins to see better, one understands the landscape. One comes to know the territory. I used to have an astigmatism. It just went away by itself, but things would jump, so I'm looking at something and then it jumps back there. And suddenly it's further away, or it would jump up close. And so I really couldn't tell where something was, because it just depended on which way my eyes were working at any particular time. And so we see life sort of like that through an astigmatism, and it's like always moving backwards and forwards because there is a problem with the eye. And we as living beings, human beings, have a problem with the eye because we take the false eye to be the real eye or the true eye. So we talk about emptiness, Dharmakaya, and we start off by saying, just to bridge a gap from not knowing to knowing, not seeing and understanding to seeing and understanding, we bridge that gap with languaging. And languaging can't really help us to know something directly. We have to actually experience it to know it directly. But we use words to try to say it's something like this, go that way, things like that. Okay, so here we are from not knowing who I is, using false appearances based on liking or disliking something that we see or hear, taste, or touch, or smell, or think. And we take that eye that's having that reaction to be the true eye. And then we say, oh, no, it's not like that. Actually, it's just like emptiness. It's you're void or you're empty of the self that you think you are. So I'm like, well, if I'm not me, who am I? So it's hard to understand. And so he says, well, let's kind of make a little bridge then. And I'm saying this because the minute we get a true glimpse of emptiness, there's no way to see it any other way. You cannot see. If you came into this room in pitch darkness and then you clicked on the light for a minute and clicked it off right back off, there is no way you cannot know this room once the light has come on. Somebody could tell you, well, no, that was a kitchen, that was a bedroom. But once you saw, you know what this room is. Cut the light back out. Go back into darkness. But you will never not know because you got a glimpse of the light. And that's what we get. We get glimpses. It's like going out of darkness and it's a bright light. I mean, you can't even tolerate more than a second of the bright light. So when one has just a glimpse, of clarity, a glimpse is all you can tolerate. Don't say like I want it all. It would like blind you completely, because all you can take is a glimpse. But in time, just glimpsing here and there. Then you find that you can hold the light a little bit more, and you won't scatter and run back to the darkness. You will hold the light because the clear seeing starts to take hold of that mind that was in delusion, that mind that was in the dullness, and it begins to show you everything that's there. And the more one sees what is there, the more one starts to know intuitively that they are moving in a direction that is stabilizing, in a direction that brings contentment. They don't have to be praying for a miracle or even looking for a miracle. It allows one to be either content with what they have, or they can set it aside, one or the other, but they're not rolling around in circles, not knowing what to do, how to do, when to do, where to do, why to do, who to do it for. The clarity starts to dawn. And the thing about it is, when this clarity dawns, it doesn't dawn just in one area. It's like when the sun shines, he's not saying, I'm going to shine on Pannavati today. Brian, not so much. It doesn't. When the sun shines, it shines indiscriminately. And you can go inside if it's too much sun. Pannavati, he loved to sit out in the sun. But I couldn't sit in the sun. I get 5 minutes, give me a headache. But he would love to be out in the sun. I'm like, something's wrong with him. Because how can you just, sit in the sun, in the sun like that? And sometimes I would want to sit with him. So we were at a monastery one time, and the master, they had given us practices. She gave me a practice, she gave Pannavati a practice, and she gave Kay the practice of no practice, because Kay doesn't want to do that kind of stuff, So she gave her that which gave her comfort. So a lot of times when we were doing our practice, Kay's practice was to go to leave the monastery and go to Starbucks. And she'd have a good time. And when she came back, she was as content having gone to Starbucks as I was having done my practice in the monastery, you see. And so you can't say what other people need. That's when we start trying to control other people, make them want what we want, make them do what we do, make them say what we say, make them, and we think that that's helping, but it's really not helping, because it's like no wine before it's time. It tastes like vinegar until it's ready. So they say. I don't know. So when we're moving in this space and we start to get glimpses of the light, there is something that comes with that, and it is a kind of ease that starts to come into your life, and that ease starts to supersede, all of the other feeling that you have that's attached to the things that are connected with that false I, that are attached to the things that you don't like, or that are attached to the things that you like, that you're craving, grasping for. See, it's not about having things, it's about things having you. It's not about having someone, that you love, but it's about grasping and clinging in a sense of ownership. And of course, making sure that you don't just want him or her because you love their love for you. And but one can begin to see these things, and one can begin to face it in their life. And once they face it, then they can set their lives aright. And when one's life is in order, that means you can go anywhere. And when you go somewhere, you influence people. You don't have to teach them Dharma. You influence people. You don't have to baptize them. You don't have to fill them with the Holy Ghost. You can just be there with them. And there's something about the brightness and the liberty and the freedom and the clarity of your life that impacts them. And that's the way that we save living beings. So we start with kindergarten stuff like right and wrong, like you teach a child, don't touch the fire, the stove, it'll burn. Like a child, burn, okay, what's burn? Child doesn't know what burn is. They may even feel the heat, and the heat might feel comforting to them because they might be a little chilly, don't know. But the heat might be comfortable. They see the flame of the fire, and like you just gave them crayon that was yellow and blue and red, and so they're like, look, there's a living crayon, and they may have the instinct or the desire to hold and touch it. But if they touch it, now they know what burn is. And so many times, as we are moving forward in our life, we have, if we can't take good advice, then we can learn advice by the things that we suffer. If we suffer things and refuse to acknowledge them or put them off on other people, then we don't learn. And so we find ourselves in these cycles of habitual tendency, repeating the same things over and over again, even when we know better. Even when we say, "I'm a fool for love," it sounds like really something. I don't know today's slang. I'm like about 30 years behind. But whatever would be dope, that sounds like something like dope you might say, but it's really not. It's really not. And so here we have this I, and it's not even just an I. We've got so many I's, and different I's pop up at different times, depending upon this, what's stimulating, that I, because that I is in there. We talk about, I think the movie was called something about Eve, and she had all these personalities. The three faces of Eve. Yeah. And but like we probably got about 20,000 of them in us, all formed on all false appearances formed by the connections, the coming together of the internal basis with the external, the consciousness arising, and 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 the three of these making contact, and then the feeling that comes behind it, and then somebody comes out. You catch Pannavati in a good mood, the good Pannavati might come out. You catch her in a not so good mood, it's like no telling. The sad Pannavati might come out, the evil, wicked Pannavati might come out, you don't really know. And so a lot of times it's not so much that we are afraid of the world. Our anxiety is that we're afraid of the world. We're afraid of ourselves, because we don't know ourselves. We don't know who we really are. And so the Dharma takes us on a journey of discovering who we truly are. And along with this journey of discovery, we end up with more tools in our tool bag that we can use at any given moment to assist us with what is coming, what is showing up at the moment. I think it was about 30, 35, 30, 30, 45, 55, 65, it's lots of years. Okay, 40 some years ago that, I was just there at church making an altar call. And I saw, some people coming up to the altar, and I'm like, why is it that we have to constantly pray for a miracle? Well, what about the scripture says that the wise man keeps himself and the wicked one can't touch him? When do I get to that one in my life? I want that one. It's a choice. What do you want? I used to sing a song, I'm looking for a miracle all the time. I'm looking for one, So one was looking for something outside of me to rescue me. But in time, as I begin to grow up spiritually, the same way we do by the time we hear a teenager, then you're deciding, no, I don't want you to do for me. I don't want you to tell me what to do, and I don't want you to do it for me. I'll do it for myself. I'd rather live in an apartment with no furniture. You don't have to buy a beanbag to live in your fully furnished house. And so we embark upon this journey of self-discovery and knowing who we are and what we are about, apart from others telling us who we are and what we are about. So I find mothers who are 60 and 70 and 80 years old still trying to run their children's household. I'm like, what do you have to do with it? You had children. You don't have them now. They're grown, and so you have to allow them, but still trying to control their life, and so that's the worldly way of doing things. But if you train up a child in the way that they should go, not the way I want them to go, but in the way that you observing their behavior, you see what they have a propensity towards, and you help them, you support them to be that. Not what the voices of the world say not who the voices of the world say you have to be or how you be, not even who I say you have to be. And you give them that freedom, and they can find their way in this world. They came in the way by themselves, except Busita and her twin. I could have that twin thing. I got to investigate that at some point, because I have some questions around that. But right now, it's enough for me to figure things out for one person, much less two. That's why I give Busita lots of grace, because I know it's not just Busita in Busita's head. It's Busita and her twin, you know? And I can't always figure out who's in my head. I mean, I can't always just figure out singular Pannavati, you know. I can't always figure out whether it's me or something I'm thinking about that somebody shared with me. And the more one becomes, sees others as their cultivation, the more others become one with you. And so things will go on inside of you, thoughts and impressions. You have to like decipher whether it's yours or whether it's somebody else's. Is it real or is it Memorex? You don't, really know. And this ordinary mind, based on intellect, can't figure that out because it's above its pay grade. So there is a place or a space that we have to enter into that has a different vibration, a higher vibration, a higher frequency, but in that frequency, from that bandwidth, you can see and you can know and you can differentiate. That's a mid-level. And once one gets to that place and some other behaviors kind of materialize with that. And I want to say this so that you know, because sometimes you think people are going backwards, people are really advancing, but because you don't know the steps to advancement, you think they're going backwards. People become more sensitive towards other people's issues. They become more in tune with things that's going on. They have more to say about it, more to think about because they have not applied other practices of developing the mind that doesn't run off in proliferation of thoughts. But suddenly, when they didn't see anything, now they start seeing something. That is that spiritual growth and development. I may not know what to do about it, but at least they see it. So that's the second step of this. It's recognizing, being in tune with the people that you come into contact with. And so a person can come and they can like just be beautiful, but they're vibrating on a certain frequency. I'm like, that's nasty right there. I know there's something there that I don't want to touch on, I don't want to handle, that it's not going to be good for me. It's not going to be beneficial, no matter how beautifully they present themselves, because you're no longer tapping into what you see or gaining false impressions through your sense gates, right? Because you recognize that's only a partial image or partial impression. You could, if you have a difficulty with false because you're looking out and you're seeing people and saying like they're really right there, so that's not they're not an illusion. They're really right there. Think of illusion as partial. You only know what you see through the lens of what you have seen and and the experiences that you've had, which are not all the experiences to have in the world, but you have yours, and they say, based on my experience, when somebody does that, it means this. Based on my experience, when somebody's looking like that, it means this. Based on my experience. And so we make experience then primary in our life. That's the thing by which we base everything. But if we haven't known that the experiences we have are based upon a false image or an illusory view of what is in front of us, then we'll take that to be, that's my judge, that's who I rely upon. And that's like leaning upon a person with a broken leg or trying to bite down on a sandwich with a broken tooth. It brings a certain kind of pain with it because it's just partial. Now, we call these things different things. We say good and bad. We say right and wrong. We say wicked and virtuous, or evil and virtuous. But those are just words that kind of point to the kind of energy or vibration or frequency that allows for vast seeing versus narrow seeing. That's all. And so, any of those words offend you, you can throw them out. If you have the understanding of how to use the words, and how they can really sharpen because they're sharp, you know, then use the words. I like sharp words because sharp words get to the point. Sharp words are like, I don't like euphemism. I don't know what you're saying. Just got to be clear. Call something, just call it out, just call it what it is, and then I can understand. You can call it the way you feel it too, and then I will know. Don't try to dress it up, or don't try to make it seem like it's good when that's not what you're trying to convey. I can deal with the truth. There was a time I couldn't deal with the truth. You hurt my feelings so bad, but now, no, because I know if my feelings are hurt, you're not hurting them. I'm hurting them. You don't have the power to hurt my feelings. But I have that sole authority about what I will take offense in, or how I will offend or not offend others. Sometimes in our speaking, such unnecessary offense is proffered, and yet we think we're good people. We can't just say anything any kind of way. Speaking truthfully is not just saying anything any kind of way. It's not putting people in their place. If you do, then the truth, the truth is not in you. Deliberately offend her. You can say no. I'm not saying don't say no. You can say no, but you don't have to say things that deliberately offend and think you're a good person, because you're not. And so when we come to the Dharma, no one can even come to the Dharma until they're starting to recognize that these false appearances are present in their life, and they want to be done with them. I'm not looking for a savior in the sense of somebody to come and rescue me. I'm looking for a savior in the sense of someone who is a way shower, who can show me how I can reach the same level of stability, the same level of insight, and the same level of usefulness in the world for others. And that's the kind of savior, one who exemplifies saving, that I'm looking for at this point in my life. And the more I yield to that, the more I figure out the things that I have to really give up and surrender. It was not that not so much a taste, not touch, not handle, not. It's all these false images I have. This idolatry of the I, of the self. And the more you step into that, you start to now looking at your opponent, which is none other than yourself, to take a mirror and just look in the mirror. And one starts working on themselves, not for themselves, but because they want to be a savior of gods and men. In our cosmology, God doesn't sit and one at the top of our spiritual hierarchy. I mean, that's down like about the fifth heaven. We got 31 planes, and then before you just out of conditioned existence. So it's a lot that one could study if they wanted to know all of those things. But you don't have to study it. You can actually ascend to them, and you know that they're there and they exist, not because you read it in somebody's book, but because you experience it for yourself. And when you know for yourself that these spaces, I'll just say, exist, and when you can enter them at will. I say at will, not like he made me go there, she made me do it, but when you yourself can enter these spaces through the first of all, the desire and the aspiration to have that level or that quality of being. And then one finds oneself slipping into it because their aspiration is coupled with a certain discipline and a certain yielding, giving up of the pleasures that bind us to this notion of this illusory self. Then that becomes your faith. So your faith is not just blindly believing something, but based on the experience that you have, that this inures for my benefit and the benefit of others. It's never a singular thing. It inures that when I act in this way, when I speak in this way, when I do this thing, it brings me a happiness, but not only me, but those who are connected with me, or those who encounter me, or those who come, and it doesn't mean that we don't have ideas about things, but it means that we don't have to act on our ideas about things or our ideas about people, because that is just a proliferation of thought based on a false or faulty appearance or engagement with the six sense bases. So all we know in the beginning is me through the lens of those bases, what I see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and think. And then we start to hear the teachings of the saint, of the master, of the Buddha, of the Christ, of the, whatever you want to call those that inspire you and bring you to an awakening of something, that there is something more than what the world offers you. Once you've had a taste of that, it's difficult to go back. If you go back, it's difficult to stay back, because the essence of it, its scent gets in your clothing, it gets in your being. You can never get rid of the scent. I watched this movie, this series called The Mentalist, and the dude didn't fight, so he was like sharp. He was 100 with words and things like that, but if somebody would like to confront him, then like he couldn't fight. And so he got into a conversation with this politician, and the politician, of course, had the upper hand in terms of politics and how things ran, in their respective offices. And so he used what he had, the mentalist. So he just said, he said, put your hand in your pocket, And he said, for what? He said, because I just put a dead mouse in there. Now, I mean, he's standing here, he didn't put a dead mouse in there, right? He said, I just put a dead mouse in there. And every time you put your hand in the pocket of this suit, you will think about that dead mouse, and you will smell that smell of the dead mouse, and the guy, and that's all he said to him. He went into conniptions, he put his hand in his pocket and took it out, and he smelled the mouse, and he stripped off the jacket, and finally had to throw the suit away. He said, that smell will never be gone, and so I watched this show. I watched it 180 times, all 155 episodes. It was a Dharma practice. I watched it, because I was really trying to see how much in our ordinary state, so wrapped up in our mind, in our thoughts, in our feelings, in our impressions, in our views, how much we miss what is really there, because we're all caught up in seeing it not as it is, but we see it as we are. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. Every time I watched the episode, it was like almost, not completely, but almost like I was watching it for the first time, because every single time I saw something I didn't see before. I heard something I didn't hear before. I held something in a different way than I held it before. And I said, it's not possible to like just go through life one time touching something second after second after second after second and getting it right. It's impossible. So we should not even expect it. We should be, jumping for glee when we get anything right, because it takes so much for the present moment for us to see its perfection in every way. For us to see it in its perfection. The only thing that keeps us from seeing it in its perfection is whatever thoughts are in our head, whatever experiences we have said that say, this is the way you have to hold that. This is the way you have to understand it. This is the way you have to protect yourself. This is what you have to do for them. All of that in our head. So we start to hear about something called the Dharmakaya. And that Dharmakaya is that which is always present and abiding, but it comes before the momentary arising of a self, of an I in this particular moment. Or say we're changing the whole thing around now. Birth and death is not birth and death. It's a whole different way of seeing and understanding the world. But it's the one that takes us out of our aversion, out of our misery, out of our anxiety, out of our fear, regardless of what happens in this moment or the next, regardless of what has happened in the past moment. It takes us out of the need to define it, and we can just see it for what it is and not get all wrapped up in that. There's a story about the Buddha meeting a disciple one time. His name was Bahia. It's Dina's favorite. Dina said, this is the whole Dharma for me. She said, if I master this one, it's in here too. If I master just this one sutta, I will have mastered the whole Dharma. Now that's wisdom right there. It says the 84,000 Dharma gates. That's a lot of Dharma. 84,000. If we tried to master all of them, it would take lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And some people are here lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes because they are trying to master the 84,000 Dharma. But he said, if you really master one, you mastered all 84,000. Who could believe it? It got to be harder than that. That's too easy. No, that's too easy. No, I need more. And then I get more. And now I'm angsting because I'm just so confused. I don't know what to do. Get unconfused about something and then penetrate it. That's the teaching. And when you've really unwrapped that and penetrated that, then you'll see that, oh, and I also got it. Now I figured that out. Oh, that makes sense to me. And that's how it goes. So like take every 100th thing and investigate it, not everything. So he says that when you hear the Dharma, that's fine. Hear it, but don't wear it. Don't carry it around on your back because it's a life raft. And when you catch it and it takes you to the other shore, you find the other shore is not over there. The other shore is right here. There's nowhere to go. So no need to carry the life raft. It's like catch and release. When I became a Buddhist, I stopped fishing. I don't have it. I was like, I ain't got that many vices. So I need to keep something, So I like catching fish. I love the drag on the reel. I love the actual hook and the snag. I wasn't even thinking about about living things like it was my mouth and I'm ripping. These are the things that the world tell you. Don't let that bother you. I remember when I first started, I couldn't slice up a bloodworm and put it on a hook. I wore gloves, because I didn't want to touch it. Well, first somebody had to do it for me, but later they were like if you're gonna fish out here with us, you're gonna have to hook your own bait. And so then I had to do that. So then I started wearing gloves. But then later, you start catching fish and you caught up in the excitement of catching the fish. I didn't have time to put on gloves to catch. I was like quick trying to get the next one on. And so it's caught up in the frenzy, and that's how we get caught up in things in life. We get caught up in doing things that it wouldn't even be in my mind. I like the guy who liked to fish. That was what? My husband liked to fish. I liked him. So I learned to like fishing. And then I took on something that wasn't even mine. So later on, like some years later, 20 years later, yeah, I'm no longer fishing. I haven't been fishing for a long time, 20 years, and I'm still thinking, oh, I like fishing. You know, that I created, that identity, you know, and she's still hanging around 20 years later, no longer fishing, you know, has compassion for the fish, you know, like really feeling like I know what the terror of being hooked and snagged up here, and you know all of this. So you know, like there's one part of me like that's hating that's vile. There's the other part of me that I created and never dissolved. So she's acting out in her mind, and so. But what I did to keep fishing was I would go to Dave and Buster's, because they have a fishing machine, you know, artificial fishing machine. Little fishies and colors swimming all around in the water, and you could throw your hook, and they have it. You know, it feels just like, you know, depending on the pound of fish that you catch, you know, it feels just like that. The drag is just like that. It was like really just like real, you know. And so I enjoyed going to Dave and Buster's and playing the fishing machine for hours. One time I came home and Pannavati said to me, you know, you might as well just go fishing, you know, because that you have that same mind, you know. And I said, no, don't. This is a game. He said, it's the same mind. Think about it, Pannavati. And I thought about it. And when I realized that it was, the power of it was broken. But I had to realize, not what you think about me, it's what I think about me, what I know about me, you know. And so that broke it for me. And it was that he saved me. You see what I'm saying? And so when we are going through our lives in that way, you know, he didn't tell me you got to stop it. Well, he couldn't tell me that. You know, he just said, he was saying, I know you and I see you. And I know your heart, and I know, but that little habit that you have right there, that one's not going to take you to your goal. That one. And so just that easy, it was an invitation for me to drop the false appearance. And I did, you see. So we're going to have to learn a new kind of language as we're interacting with people. We're going to have to learn how to, first of all, to speak the truth, but then let it be true what we're speaking. Let it not be egocentric. Let it not be our bodacious way. Let it not be, no, so we can speak the truth. And most of us have difficulty speaking the truth, so we say something else that sounds nice, but we're thinking something else, you know, or we'll say something that we won't say something because we want to be liked, you know, or we will say something because we want to be acknowledged, you know, but and that's like trying to be acknowledged in that kind of slick, sly way, so that you don't have to puff yourself up. You position yourself so that somebody else puffs you up, and you say, "Oh, you're so kind," you know, that kind of thing. And so we have to work on seeing all of these false selves that we have created and dismantle them one by one. That's a full-time job, people, I tell you. It's a full-time job. We ain't got time to try to dismantle anything in anybody else's mind. It's a full-time job, having clear seeing and knowing what's in our own life, within our own heart, within our own mind. It's a full-time job. Then disciplining ourselves to walk in line or in step with that. I mean, who can control you? Who can control me? Nobody but me. Who? There's nobody that can do it for you. We have to do it for ourselves. And so when we start talking about things and using words like discipline, like it starts to feel like not good, like because I don't want anybody tell me what to do, or it starts to feel constraining and restricting. But if you can see that that is actually the pathway to freedom, and it is broad, it's as broad as you allow it to be, that pathway to freedom. And self-mastery, self-realization, self-actualization. And that's the true happiness that comes into our life through this practice and through this kind of cultivation. So you can be a Christian Buddhist, you can be a Jewish Buddhist, you can be, because this is about really stepping in to the self-mastery, which is the true gift of the teacher to the disciple, gives them their freedom papers, gives them their walking papers, and that our only prison is the prison of the self. Then you don't cease to exist, but you exist in a different kind of way. You love without grasping and clinging. You love your children. You love your partner. You love your family. You love your friends. You love your sangha. You love your neighbors. And he says you start that way and like go out in a circle. And you get to the place that you even love your enemies. He's so crazy. That's it. Because I can keep myself, his craziness cannot touch me. And what if every person on this planet had this training? We would turn our mourning into joy. We would have such a celebratory heart and spirit that the minute we walked into a room, that room would light up. And any darkness there, I mean, you go into a dark room, all it takes is lighting one match, and the darkness cannot, prevent the light from just one match. That's not a personal self, you see, that's walking into the room. It is that self before all of the impressions of what we see and hear and taste and touch and smell and think are fabricated. That's how powerful our mind is. And then we start speaking and living a language of love. It's not obligatory, it's not binding, it's not coercive. But a person feels free in your presence. A person feels free even at the thought of you. You can heal from a distance. I mean, don't stop coming to Dharma, but but you can, because you become boundless yourself. You become vast yourself. That true self that can be anything that's needed at the moment. You will be miles and miles from somebody, and yet they're this close to you. Your view becomes so unclouded that you can see something coming far off in the distance. And if you have applied some discipline to your life, then you won't be afraid of it, even if you see it at a distance. You'll understand that all conditions that are present are due to causes. They're not happenstance. All conditions are due to causes. And then that present condition is a cause. It's going to produce another effect. And you just start seeing life in this way, understanding life in this way. So right in this moment, I can be having the good fruit manifesting or not good fruit manifesting. It doesn't really matter. What matters is, what will I do in this moment? Because that's going to set up the fruit that is to come. So that's a good reason then for when there's unfortunate fruit ripening in your life, be careful what you think. Be careful how you speak. Be careful what you do, because it's not this condition. This condition is a done deal. It's already manifesting. It was initiated prior. It's now here. So this condition is just the fruit. It's done. But what do you want to see ripening next? More of this in a more harmful way, a more vile way, a more destructive way? Or do you want to see something transformed and present another way? The only way that's going to happen is that right now, in the midst of this misfortune, or I have to do not more of this, but I have to do what I want to see bear fruit in the future. And you got to have a lot of determination for that. And most people they just don't have enough. So if we didn't do anything but give people more determination that there is the possibility for things to be better in the future, then that would be a lot. If that's all you can do, just do that. No need to talk about all these other things. No need to spew venom and no need to just be thinking the worst. I mean, because how the mind leans and inclines, that's the way that we will go. And we find that we are no more than the ones that we talk about because of this destructiveness, the destructive seeds we plant in the mind that have a vibration. Like, this whole room, some things vibrate at a certain frequency, we see it. If it starts vibrating at another frequency, we'll feel it. It's vibrating at another frequency, so it's just how limitless do you want to be? It's the real thing. I love science, as far as that goes. I love it until it gives me a headache. Then that's it. That's all I can handle of it. So a lot of things that the scientists are talking about, I don't have a clue what they mean or how they even came to that conclusion. And these contraptions that they make that prove that something goes through a slot and it splits. I don't know what all of that is, but they have proved it to their satisfaction. So now they teach it to us and say it's so whether we can figure it out or not. And we say, oh, that's science. I could hold on to that. But we don't know it. No. But we can get to the place that we can experience some of these things directly. I was telling my daughter, who came up to see me last night, because we always talk about going to get together. And it's years we talk about it. Like, Ma, you free next week? I'll let you know. I missed the next week getting back to us. Now I'm at the week after next and saying, yeah, I'm free next week. Oh, Ma, that was last week. I'm not free now. And it goes on and on and on. And it's a couple of years. Finally, she said, Ma, I'm coming. I said, when? She said, I think it was Saturday, she said. And she said, Tuesday. Well, then Sunday passed and Monday passed, and I come, tomorrow's Tuesday. And I go, are you still coming? She said, and so all of this happens, and the days click by on us. Life just moves. It's moving like It's just moving like this. I won't say time because that's another whole Dharma talk. But life passes us by like this. And I say to you, don't let this harvest pass. I once was young and now I'm old. And I used to say, and I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. But I understand it in a whole different way now. That one is not standing looking for a handout, but one is perfecting oneself, coming to the fullness of the measure of the stature of the ones that they held and embraced as being the crowning examples of humanity. And there's a passing out from that stage until one, in our tradition, we use the word Buddhic, till one passes out of the stage of being the ultimate human being into the lineage of the awakened ones. That's my goal. That's my purpose for life. I see that I have squandered my life. In many ways, not, but in many other ways, I absolutely have squandered my life on things, came here and did not hear why I was here. And so it's important to listen. We think we have to learn so much and study so much, but we don't. If we listen for the frequency. That's what the master's voice is. It's the frequency. It's like a beacon calling us home. Then we can do all the things we can do that we want to do, that we can have all the things we want to have. We can be with all the people that we want to be with. I'm going to end now, and I want to end with that same song. We can, it doesn't mean we can't do all of these things. It just simply means it's like when you're walking in a field of gold dust, the dust will rise up and get on the top of your shoes. So you could enjoy and you can have all those things, but know that the path, the road, it's not the territory. You have to fully enter into this kind of life. And the doorway is untying the knot of the false view of an individuated self. Until a person wants to do that, nothing else to discuss, nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. And so we spend a lot of time reflecting on who am I? What am I? How am I? And when we get totally tied up in a knot, then we just drop it. And when it drops, then we start to see that there is another way of knowing ourselves and another way of being in this world. And it becomes so natural, so delightful. And you see through that lens, you see the whole world through that lens. And the peace and contentment that is born of that investigation gives us rest. Thank you for coming today.
When I'm living without hope, when my heart is hurt and my mind confused, calling me, I hear you calling me. When I'm living on the ropes, going down for the third time, I hear you calling me, I hear you calling me. You say, why be afraid of false surge and wait? There's just impermanent states of mind. And at once I'm free of false identity, because the master calls from afar. I hear you calling me, I hear you calling me, calling me.
There is a true unbinding, the joy to be received.
When stainless vision rises and we stand undeceived,
Embracing circumstances, our hearts will be relieved.
this is the end of suffering.
Feel like my eyes haven't seen much. Feel like my words don't mean much. From the dirt on the ground that my knees touch to the sky up above when I reach up, I hear a voice from the distance, and it's calling me to witness. If it's a part of you, it's a part of me. I hear you calling me.
Calling me, calling me, calling me, calling me. If you wanna be saved, if you wanna be saved from your self-destructive ways, listen to the Master. Calling, open to the Master. Calling, 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 open to the Master. Calling, calling, calling to